All right, everyone. I have Hugo Alonso from Stay Winning Pod back on my channel, and this weekly thing is going on pretty well. We have some great topics to talk about, and today we're going to talk about, I guess, financial illiteracy, I guess, and kind of what Hugo's experience with that is. And I definitely have a lot to say about this too. But Hugo, welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me back on. Hopefully, I can keep on committing to this weekly, man. Because our conversations are good, and I hope people let us know in the comments if you're finding value in these topics that we're discussing.
Yeah. So, what is your experience? I guess maybe talk about like what's your education level, college degree or whatnot, and kind of where did or when or where did you start learning about finances?
Yeah, so education level, I have a bachelor's degree in radio, television, and film from Cal State Fullerton. Um,
Did
and
they
then
teach you how to talk super smooth and cool like that over there?
no, no, they didn't. They didn't. Um, I guess that's paying off now though, hopefully. But no, that's not what I learned on there. What
So,
about you, Mark?
me, so I have a bachelor's degree in accounting and finance. I've never used it a day in my life. I mean, I graduated with it. I was always told to. My brother was older than me, and his friends were in business and accounting, and they're like, "Hey, if you don't really know, exactly kind of what field you want to get into, accounting and finance is probably the most general and useful." And I knew I wanted to do something in business at the time, but I
Yeah.
didn't know specifics. I went that route, and I can honestly say I don't remember anything from those classes, but it I guess maybe some of it kicks back up every once in a while. But as far as yeah, there's not a lot that I remember from those days back in college.
Well, you definitely picked a good major. Like if there was something to just fall back on or that you're always gonna have a use for, or someone will have a use for. Yeah, that's definitely the way to go. But radio, TV, film, just based on the way technology is going, and even with AI now, um, I wouldn't go back and do it if I had to do it all over again. But for anyone listening, just to add to yours, Mark, I was the first one to go to college in my family. So I planned on getting a master's degree in business, so an MBA. And I didn't know that you did not have to have a bachelor's in business to get a master's. So if anyone else there is the first in college, yeah, I could have still gotten a master's even with my film degree as a bachelor. So you do not need a bachelor's in business to get your master's in business. So just want to throw that out there because I was under that impression incorrectly.
So it sounded like, did you say you had a plan, you wanted to get that, and then something stopped you?
Um, No. So I did a year of business for a bachelor's in business before I found out, oh, I don't need a bachelor's in business to do a master's in business. So it is something that I wanted to obtain because my finance career was going really, really well. My finance career started off as, oh, let me just do this on the side while I go to college. But within a year, I got promoted twice and was like, wow, this is a real deal. And then I was making the money that you're promised once you get a bachelor's degree, right? Like when you're in high school, you're like, oh, get a bachelor's so you can make this much at a job. But I was already making that. So the next thing was, well, how can I make more? And that's when the master's thing came in mind. I saw how much it costs, and it was fine because my employer would have paid for it at that time. But I didn't want to take the test. I forgot what the test, I think it's called a MCAT.
Yeah, MCAT.
I'm not sure. Yeah, what the test is called. Um, And the school that I eventually narrowed down as far as where I wanted to go to, there was a great online program specifically tailored for banking professionals. That's where my finance background started in banking. And after a certain amount of time in the banking industry, you could waive that test based on your experience. Um, so I was just waiting it out. And then by that time, some things happened, and now I'm making more than what I would if I did have that. And there's no need for me to go get in more debt. Now I have a different employer. They don't pay for it. So I'm like, I don't need to get in debt more. Why focus on learning when I could focus on making money? At the end of the day, that's the goal, is to make more money. So I'd rather just use that time to go make money now than than go to school and get in debt.
So what do you have any opinion on like maybe why our system, our school system is kind of set up and structured the way it is, where you go to school, you go to college, get a W-2 job, and you kind of become an employee. Do you have any opinion on that?
Yeah, it's not an accident that things are tailored that way. There's a bunch of conspiracies of why the thing is why it is that way, but I personally don't think that it's an accident of why it is that way. So there's times where I sit down and talk finances, whether it's in my podcast or just with friends, and a lot of times they confirm what we were confirming off camera, which is yeah, they don't teach you that in school. They teach you specifically catered how to be an employee, how to just be another social security number to the system, for lack of a better term. So that's my opinion on it. Um, and then if you want to get even more technical or more into it, once the government stepped in, just like history has shown, they ruin a lot of things once you give the government more power in certain things. So they said, hey, colleges, we're going to back up these student loans. Uh, Students can no longer file bankruptcy on their student loans, right? Because that was a thing that I heard back in the day. People, a lawyer would be like, oh, hey, medical school student, just I'll be a lawyer and we'll file bankruptcy, right? And everyone starts back at zero. So government steps in, you can no longer file bankruptcy on your student loans. Colleges go, oh, the government's backing this up. Let's raise tuition. But as we can see, based on the youth today, not even being able to point out what the capital of California is or the capital of DC, of the US is, we can see that the quality of education has not risen along with the cost. Um, just something else to think about. But my opinion is, again, going back to the previous topics, it's all personal. If you want to go to school, go for it. But it is a great opportunity to network, whether you're in clubs, whether you're in sports, fraternities, or sororities. It's a great place to network. I will say that, especially with people that are, what can, be considered colleagues that are in your range or on the same level. Some of the greatest public companies out there now are from people that got together in college and built those companies, and now they're employing hundreds of thousands of people. So in that aspect, yes, I would say it's worth it. Not all majors are the same. Not going to call anyone out, but usually anything that ends in studies, stay away from it.
Oh yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it really comes down to like you're saying the cost and what field you're going to go into and what kind of returns you can expect from that major that you're going to go down, what path you're going to go down. But yeah, I mean, I really don't know when I really started kind of trying to understand finances and more the money aspect of how things work. Because like I said, I always tell people I was just kind of coasting along and I had no idea. I mean, if you, I mean, 5, 10 years ago, you talked to me about inflation and the Fed funds rate and all these things, I would have had blank, stare on my face and I had no idea what you're talking about. And like, I mean, it doesn't affect me. It doesn't, I can't do anything about it. And that's
Yeah.
kind of was my attitude before. But yeah. So I mean, as far as you talking about as far as like the bankruptcy side of getting college loans and whatnot and file bankruptcy, do you think that has kind of a big effect on like you said government stepping in and just I know you didn't use the word ruin things, but government putting their
Or
hands
did
into.
I? I'm not sure what word I used, but
I mean, you
I
you
think
may
you know
have,
what I mean.
yeah, exactly. But just like anything, right? The more government influence we have, it seems as if things don't really work out the way it's supposed to be. So, do you see like education or college changing in any way, in the future, or how can it get better? I think maybe.
Oh, how can the whole system get better?
Yeah, I mean, do you see any like end in sight, or is this kind of what we're dealt with, and we just kind of, if when you have a child, or my son, we just kind of got to teach them on our own, right? We got to help them realize, like, yeah, you have the school side, the structured side, but as far as money, other life, activities, you kind of got to teach them on your own.
Let's see. One thing that, as far as a change that I would recommend, I guess, if you look at some Western European countries, their bachelor's degrees only take 3 years
Hmm.
versus 4 years. So maybe there's some way to implement more in the high school system as far as what do you want to do? or where do you see yourself by age 25? And then that way, when you go to college, I think the average student I read, it might not be the same, but when I was in college, I think the stat was like the average student changes majors 3 times, right? So, what about if you were like a year here and a year there, a year there, right? That's money that you don't need to spend, or
Yeah.
loans that you don't need to accumulate. So maybe, I guess, from the household perspective, which we do have control over, is from a younger age, where do you want to be by 25? Where do you want to be by 30? Where do you want to be by 35? Like we talked in, I think, video number 2. Like if you do the bare minimum, right? Let's say retirement is 65. Like let's say it's an age number versus a dollar amount number. Then your goal would be like, let me become a homeowner by age 35. So by the time I hit 65, that 30-year loan is paid off. So we could approach it from, at least in the household perspective. Hey, you're 15 now. What are you thinking about doing when you're 25? Or, you might want to pull up some statistics. Hey, like if you have a teenager right now, you could easily say AI is going to kill this field, this field, this field. Like they're just going to wipe out X amount of jobs in this field, X amount of jobs in this field. Like I get people, that message me and say, hey, do you need someone to edit your short, your YouTube shorts or your Instagram shorts? And that's really nice. And I would like to employ them. Obviously, you and I are still doing this without getting paid, but we understand that's part of the game. Yeah, eventually the goal was to employ someone, but now there's AI where you post this YouTube video on your channel, I'll get that link and put it on AI, and AI will shoot me short clips, right? So that's one example. Like if you want to go to school for editing, I don't think there's majors specifically tailored to that, right? It would be like a film degree, but that's one thing where you could be like, hey, yeah, you want to be a film editor, but you're 15 by the time you're 18, by the time you're 20, like that job is going to be obsolete. So maybe from the household perspective, that's what we can do. From a systematic perspective, maybe, yeah, there's no need to get a bachelor's in 4 years when other countries are doing it in 3 years. And even with that, we're way behind in education when you compare us.
Yeah, I think you make a great point though that it kind of has to start probably before even college. Like, the lower like high school kind of grooming people to figure out kind of what direction they want to go in. Because like you're saying, once you get to college, you might change your major 3 times and now you're in all this student debt because you've been jumping around so much, right? So I think that's a great point where you actually what can be beneficial is if they figure out a way to start in the high school, even maybe before that, but just kind of get a better idea of what you want to do. Because now that I look back on it, I mean, I like I said, even when I got to college, it was just so general. I was going to go into business, but I mean, high school, honestly, it really didn't kind of open my eyes to kind of maybe what my interests were or what direction I wanted to go. So yeah, I think that would make a huge difference. But good thing I didn't get any student debt though. I didn't have to take out loans. I didn't,
Oh, nice.
yeah, Hawaii was actually very, I mean, because it's in-state tuition also, so it's very
Yeah.
actually very affordable at the time. And I don't know what it is now, but I think when I was going, it was like maybe $1,000 semester maybe. But yeah, it was pretty affordable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. See, that's still very doable. I remember, I don't know if there's a state thing or a federal thing, but the Pell Grant will cover like a semester at the state level for state level tuition. I don't know about that now though. Just seeing those numbers now, they're very scary.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't, so even like for Hawaii, we have some very highly regarded like private schools, like and even that, some of them are like 20, 30,000 for the year.
Wow.
And that's a huge decision for parents to make in Hawaii is like, are you going to send your child to, private school or public school? And yeah, cost of living is already high out here. And now you got to factor in like, your child's education and, how you're going to pull that off. And so,
Yeah, for sure. So this relates to what we talked about previously and real estate as far as like how you're gonna pull that off, right? So I was the first one to go to college in my family. So let's say I really liked where I went to school, right? And you want to build a dynasty. Like eventually your kid's gonna go there, their kids are gonna go there. right? We also know, so there's two things we can all agree on, wherever we are on the political perspective, is housing is really expensive and schooling is really expensive, right? So I saw a clip one time, and I had already thought about this, but I saw this clip that went viral, and I thought it was pretty cool that I'm like, okay, I'm not the only one thinking that way. It's purchasing a home in the city where you wanted to go to college at. So in California, Central California is probably more affordable compared to some of the coastal cities or some of the bigger cities, right? So like Fresno State. So you would buy, and this goes back to my whole theory about building the nest first, right? You would buy a home like today, 2023. So by the time they turn 18, you have a house that's tripled in value in California, right? In 20 years, you at least double. Best case scenario, triple in value. I've seen it. Um, and then use that to cash out, pay tuition, sell it, pay tuition, rent the rooms out, use that to pay housing and tuition. As far as what we have control over versus a system that we don't have control over, as far as, they're not going to go and say, we're going to lower tuition. We have no power over them saying they can lower tuition. But what we do have control over is where we can decide to purchase our real estate and encourage, our future generations where they're going to go to school at, if that's the route they want to take. And if not, you can sell the house, cash out, and right now you can actually splurge on a wedding because it's just
Yeah.
all equity now. It's just
No,
all
yeah.
it's time.
Yeah. I love that idea. The only thing I would say is I know you don't have kids yet, and that's for no, for me, it's like I don't even know what kind of breakfast my son wants the next day. So for as far that I'm like struggling, like, what are you gonna eat today? But I do like that idea. And actually I've kind of thought of that already as far as even if he doesn't go to college in that area, you're still going to have a home, with hopefully a lot of built-in equity already. And you have options now, right? That you can, like you said, if you want to, you could even, maybe you were, like I said, I was looking in North Carolina because that's where his mom's from. He loves it over there.
Okay.
But let's say he decide, you buy something in North Carolina because you think he might go there.
Hmm.
And then if he decides to go to another area, like you said, you can 1031 that property into a property
You get
to maybe
1031
where
that
he's
property.
at, or sell it, or whatever. But now at least you have options. And my other thought was I got to figure out too, like the residency side of it, like because if you to get in-state tuition. So that was another thought I was running through my head, as far as, because if I retire early, and I would do it by a property maybe like where I think he may go to college. Like if I live there for a year, would I be qualified for in-state tuition for him for residency? Or so yeah, that's something I have to look into also, to see if I can somehow get residency and pay that tuition.
Yeah, that's a good point to bring up, the in-state tuition versus out of state. Yeah,
Yeah.
most states is usually 1 year, but for anyone listening, yeah, you want to look specifically at what the rules are for that specific college and what the laws are specifically for that state. Worst case scenario, they just go to a community college nearby, do their time, and then transfer over.
Yeah. Yeah. So where, like I tell people, you have great information, like on Twitter, Instagram, you have, great statistics and numbers you come up with. Like, how do you, I guess, verify, like how do you know what you're looking at or what you're reading is a reputable source? Or where do you go for most of your information? Do you like reading things, or do you like videos, or what?
I read it mostly, and the way I verify it is with charts. Um, and most of the time it's comparing it to historical data, right? So someone very influential could say, hey, there's going to be a housing crash. But I know based on what I've seen, what I've read, what I've experienced, that there's not. So even though that person might have, 500,000 followers, does not make them accurate or true. But my own gut, my own knowledge, me trusting myself and verifying by experience and by other sources, reading one and saying, okay, what's this saying? What's this saying? What's this saying? uh, verify it that way, confirm it, and that's how I move forward with it.
Would you say that you are addicted to like finding financial information or looking at financial data?
Man, I wouldn't know how to specify addiction, but I do know how it feels to like something and want to do it again because you like it. So if that's what you mean or what that means, yeah, that's my relaxing time. Right before bed, I'm reading charts, man.
Yeah. No, yeah.
Oh,
I mean, like I said, 5, 10 years ago, I would have been like, "What's wrong with you? Like, what's you're crazy." But now, yeah, like I said, I find enjoyment. It's relaxing. It's and it just you start thinking about other things, and you're like, "Oh, how does this relate to that?" And yeah, it's a lot of fun, and like, I get enjoyment out of it. Like you're saying, for you, it's relaxing, and you do it before bed and everything. But
yeah, for sure. And if you think about it, money doesn't sleep, right? So, and now crypto I don't know if you know, it's traded 24 hours a day, right? So the stock market is only open for a couple of hours. Unfortunately, we're still sleeping when it opens, so we don't get the benefits compared to the East Coast where they're showered and had their coffee and dropped their kids off at school and are waiting on the computer, right? We don't have that luxury because sun's
oh
not even up when the market opens. But
well,
crypto,
yeah, it's kind of up for you, but in Hawaii,
a
you're
little bit,
yeah.
yeah. Um, but in the crypto world, it's 24/7, right? So, you know, it could be daytime in China or something, and they passed some crypto legislation that could be impacting, my wallet. So yeah, I'm looking at that too.
You know
Um,
what? I think that's something we should talk about because I really have no real clue to I guess you could say about crypto too much. It's just I'm strictly real estate now, and that's kind of my thing, and focused on that. And I know you talk about crypto and stuff a lot, so I think that would be super helpful to my audience to kind of talk about that a little bit, even help me a lot just to kind of get a better understanding of it.
yeah, yeah. What do you want to know? I don't think
No,
I
we
know
can, like I said,
everything, but
we can do this for our next one, the next topic or whatnot.
yeah. So everyone, like the video, comment if you want me to talk about crypto, and we'll do that on another interview.
But I did have an interview with someone else today. I don't know if you may have seen her, Sierra Smith. She's like a real estate investor. She does digital marketing. But I was
Hmm.
telling her today about how you wanted like 30, your goal was 30 rental properties so that each day you're collecting rent. So you had rent collected this day, and she just loved it. She thought that was awesome. And I was like, yeah, man, that's just, yeah, he wants 30 properties each day, ching, ching, rent coming in.
Yeah, man, that's a dream right there. Your margins might be $100 at first, but you can't stop aging, you can't stop time. So, um, what is it called? Not patience, delayed gratification. 10 years from now, 15 years from now, that $100 margin becomes a $600, $700 margin. So instead of waking up to $100 every day, you wake up to $700 every day, and then $1,000 every day. And
Yeah.
then and then when your kid's born, you could be like, hey, you could be whatever you want. Because even if you fuck up, like
Yeah. Exactly.
you made
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I planted the seed, now you have the shade and
Yeah.
enjoy the tree.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned. I actually was going to bring that up, and I kind of lost track of it. But how you were talking about kind of building, generational wealth, or you're the first one to go to college, but you're setting that, like you're saying, planting that seed or building that foundation for the next generation of your family. And maybe I'm sure you will, but maybe you don't get to that 30 rentals, or you don't get to that goal that you set for yourself, but you're definitely making it easier for your next generation to start off and build on that, and hopefully build their layer on top of what you built, and then just from there it just keeps growing.
Yeah, for sure, man. So even if I don't make it at 30, I've done the math and the numbers, and all you need is three, and you can have a great retirement.
Yeah. Well, this has been fun again, and thanks for coming on. And like you said, hopefully we can figure out the schedules and keep this going. And like I said, I'm gonna start doing this at work if I have to. I played around. It came out pretty good with my phone. I did something with somebody else on my phone, so I think it'll work
Okay.
out fine.
Okay.
Yeah, but if I get a call, then sorry, man, you got to do it solo. I got to run, but yeah, it'll be fun. So we'll do this again.
All right, cool, man.
All
Thanks
right,
for
thanks,
having me.
man.
See you next time.